gun control and the current laws in the United States for gun control, why people promote more gun control, and why more people promote less gun control. So firstly, we need to talk about the current gun laws to understand why people would like stricter laws and why people would like less strict laws. So right now in the United States, law-abiding citizens 18 and older are able to possess rifles, and if a citizen is 21 or older, then they can possess a handgun in all states. So these rules apply to every single state. However, to possess a handgun in certain states, a permit is required. Depending on the state, guns can be concealed with a permit. So with a concealed carry permit, people in certain states are able to carry their gun hidden on them at all times, perfectly legally, if they have that specific permit. And some states require you to take a test before purchasing the guns to make sure that your mental state is alright, and to make sure that you know how to use a gun so there won't be an accident, to basically prevent guns from getting in the wrong hands. However, these tests are not required in all states, so this overall law is not 100% effective because it doesn't apply to everybody, and not everybody has to take the test. So in one state, people could take the test and all check out, and in another, they wouldn't necessarily need to take it, and that could potentially lead guns getting into the hands of not very nice people. So people who are anti-guns or pro-gun control are mostly against them due to the increase in mass shootings in the United States recently, such as the tragic Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre. Many people believe, and maybe not wrongly so, that if guns were not here, then that would never have occurred. And so they would like to either get rid of guns altogether or to create higher background checks to ensure that things like this doesn't happen again. Now, people who are pro-gun control also say that guns often restrict the government from controlling crime in the United States. So due to anybody being able to own a gun, potentially in the United States, unless they're already a convicted felon, or a number of accentuating circumstances, a police officer never knows what they're getting into, and this can often lead to negative impacts. For example, a police officer may accidentally fire at somebody who doesn't have a gun, or who may have a gun but wasn't going to shoot the officer because the increased tension of there being guns and the officer potentially being shot on the job. So many people believe that if guns were not a problem for officers, law enforcement could go smoother and crime control would be easier. Another main argument is that somebody who owns a gun and is perfectly legal to own the gun and has all it checked out, that gun may be stolen by a criminal or somebody else who is not eligible to get a gun of their own. So if these crimes of theft occur, then guns could potentially be in the bad hands and people who would do negative things with them, despite all the background checks and everything that we as a nation try to do to keep the guns out of the negative hands. So the proposed solutions for all of the problems surrounding guns is to mainly ban semi-automatic guns with high magazine counts. So this would not necessarily prevent mass shootings, but make them less easy to perform, since there wouldn't be semi-automatic weapons and not as many bullets could fit in the gun as quickly, so the person acting as a terrorist would have to reload the gun. They would also like to require more intense testing to allow people to purchase guns. So rather than just a regular test and a background check, they would like to create more intense testing and make sure that that testing is consistent state by state. So somebody in one state who would never be able to get their hands on a gun can't just easily walk in and get one anyway. And then the last proposed solution, which is the most extreme of them all, is to ban guns altogether. Now, people who are for gun rights and anti-gun control have a few reasons that they believe this way as well. So the first reason and the main reason that people who are for having guns is that the Second Amendment right declares the right to bear arms. So if we were to ban guns or to infringe on somebody's right to own a gun, that would actually violate their Second Amendment right. Now that's not saying a criminal who can't have a gun, that doesn't violate their right, but if the average person in America could not get a gun, if they were a good law-abiding citizen, then that would infringe on the Second Amendment right. Another reason for people to have guns is self-defense. And many people think that this would be weird since if nobody has guns or has access to these guns, why would you need self-defense? Well, somebody could come in your house to harm you using other weapons anyways, but additionally, if a criminal is willing to break into a house with a weapon or to try and commit a murder, what is it to them to get a gun illegally? So the thought process is that if law-abiding American citizens do not have rights to guns, criminals get them now anyway. If we ban guns altogether, criminals would still be able to get their hands on guns. And then the only problem would be is that the average innocent Americans would not have the guns to defend themselves against the criminals who illegally got the guns anyway. So while this isn't a proven thing, it makes a lot of sense that if criminals are already getting guns, what would stop them from getting them? And if a criminal is willing to go into somebody's house and rob them at gunpoint, or to potentially murder somebody anyway, them getting in trouble for potentially having an illegal firearm isn't going to stop them. So many people believe that putting guns in the hands of everyone actually protects than somebody not having a gun and somebody illegally getting one and then using that gun to terrorize another innocent American who would not have a gun because of the gun restrictions. Another main reason for guns is for sporting activities such as rifle clubs in schools and things like that, and then mainly hunting, since a lot of people in the United States do enjoy that activity, do enjoy hunting game, and not only enjoy it, but it provides a food source for their family, so it's very important to those people to have the guns. And then lastly, which ties back to the Second Amendment, many people believe that we should have guns to protect us from the corrupt government. And now the Second Amendment was put into the Constitution strictly because England tried to take guns from the United States before we were even in the United States. They tried to take them from the 13 colonies to prevent an uprising. Now, if the government were to do that again, and we didn't have guns, then if we would need to correct a corrupt government or start a revolution, we would not have the means to do that. And I know that was a while ago, and they put that in hundreds of years ago. However, many people believe that this still applies today. So that was gun control, the current laws, and why people are for and against more gun control, and what side believes what.